Hi, I'm Terica Talbert, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Tuesdays with Terica. So this week, I am going to be interviewing my uncle, Reverend Dr. J.E. Young, the pastor of Mount Ararat Baptist Church. He has so much wisdom and so much knowledge. Great conversation. This is in honor of Father's Day, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy your week. Hi, I'm Terica Talbert, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Tuesdays with Terica. So today I have one of my most special people with me that I'm going to be talking to about Father's Day. This is Reverend Dr. J.E. Young, who is the pastor of Mount Ararat Baptist Church, and he's also my uncle. Yay! So in honor of Father's Day, I thought it would be just really nice to be able to share with you some of my history, some of my family, some of what makes me who I am. So this is what today this episode is about. Okay, so Rev, let's kind of get into it. How are you today?
Fine, just fine.
You feeling good, huh?
That's right, to be an old man.
And for our viewers, how old are you?
87.
87 years old, which is awesome and amazing. Just for everybody to know, my Aunt Pauline Young is not here with us today, but she is the other half of what makes him who he is. So how long have you and Aunt Pauline been married?
6 to 8 years.
68.
All of our
A
lives.
long time. So you guys got married when you were how old?
19. I was 19 on Friday and married on Sunday. 22nd of November in 1953.
It's amazing that you just remember all that just so easy, but it's almost like yesterday for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I can. Well, I don't have to close my eyes to see it. I can just think about it and remember those things. And she has been there with me all of these years. And we had it tough when we first married, not argumentative, but financially, because there was no money made. And but I know I've been blessed because we married in '53, and in '58 I bought a house.
Yes, and you're still living there.
And you're still living there. We added on to it. It's large now. We added to it. We got 9 rooms, and we've been blessed. And one of the things that I often think about and know how God has blessed us is the fact that when I bought that house, I was making $1,800 a year. And I worked 2 jobs, saved up $710, and I drew it out and bought that house. And it was a little new house. And at that time, we had 2 children, Colette, which was the oldest, and then Lance. And when Pauline, and I want to say this, Terica, because really a lot of people, usually most time, men, when they when they discover that their wives are pregnant and they want to have a baby, they look forward for a boy. But God cut across that thing and gave us a girl. But when the girl come, I was just as proud of her as I would have been a boy.
Well, that is great.
She was very cute and all of that, and then she used to follow me everywhere we went when she was small, and I would take her with me and so forth. And then in '59, October 59, I was called into the ministry. And I had a trial street, my initial sermon, and I worked with my pastor, who was a young pastor, James S. Hall, who pastored the Springfield Baptist Church in Greenville, South Carolina. And I learned so much from him. And there was a fellow who came from Beaufort, and he married a girl out the church, laid out of the church, and his name was Davis. And he was a Bible teacher, and he knew it, and I learned from him how to study, and it helped. But really, school don't make a preacher. You got to be called by God and ordained to preach. It ain't something you just go into. It's something that you are called into, you're pushed into. And most pastors try to avoid it. But when God has something he wants you to do, there's no escape.
That's exactly
You got to do it.
So with you talking about the church, those, your members are your children too. But before we get into that, how many children to your union, you guys have how many children?
You're not referring to grand, this is you.
No, we're talking about just the children right now.
Okay, well we have, we had 8.
Okay.
No. Oh, I think about grand. We had 5, 3 girls and 2 boys.
So 5 children, but it's not even 8 grands, it's 9 grands.
Yeah, 9 grand. I was gonna get to it, yeah.
Okay, and then how many great grands? Do you know how many great grands you
If
got?
I'm not mistaken with great grands, I have, let's see, can I name them, the parents?
You got 13.
Yeah, that's what I figured to say, because see, I was just gonna say Colette had 3, Lance 3, Mark 1, Colette, Tammy, and LaTanya 2.
Right.
And then
Their children.
their children.
Is 13.
So we have
And then you have one great.
And the blessing is that the Lord has allowed Pauline and me to live, to hold them, to see them grow up, and so forth. And to me, I consider that one of the most greatest blessings that we can have. And then we're able to get around.
Yes.
Like just for yesterday, how we was holding a little 2-month-old one, you know. And you know how I have him doing. I spoil them all. Yeah.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Sometimes a little too much, but that's okay. I help reel it in.
That's too much for you all, but it's nothing for me, because I know that, listen, I know that I won't be here 8 or 7 more years.
Well,
so I have to take advantage of the one that I have now, and while I'm able to get around and doing things, then I want to hold them in my arm. I have 2, and one of them is 9 years old. She's an A student. She made A's all the way through school. And this is her knee. And this is my little great-grandboy. This is a grand, and this is a great-grand. So he said, this is his knee, and she said, this is her knee. And even at 9 years old, they'll come and sit in my lap.
Because they think you're a big toy.
A big toy. That's what they said, that I'm a toy.
So with when Aunt Pauline told you that she was pregnant, when she told you she was first pregnant, you were really excited.
Yeah.
So over the years in being a dad, a young dad, if you had to look back over your life, what would be the highlight of being a father? Well,
I think one of the highlights of being a father is that, first of all, remember that they're a gift from God to us. And you got to love them, the children, you love your wife, for giving, for God using her to bless us with children. And I figured that everything is a gift, and then I just enjoyed going to work, coming home, and seeing her there with her. And she had a little old job, but I stopped her because I loved that baby so much until I was willing to work 2 jobs to try to survive for her. And I used to wax cars on Saturday, wash them and wax them in my backyard. and just for $7. But that was grocery money. Sometimes it'd be night when we went to the grocery store, or night when we went to the washerette. And we just the highlight of it was then to see her grow up. And Pauline was able to, she was a good seamstress. She could sew, and she could make clothes for that little girl. And we were just happy, just happy.
So if you had one thing that as a dad you would do different, is there anything that you would do different, or do you think that you did everything the best way you knew?
I did everything the best way that I knew how, and I don't think that I made a mistake in what I did, because first of all, I got saved at an early age.
Very important.
And
Very important.
And then studying the Bible, I learned that somebody else was in control of me, and that was God. And if I would obey and do what he says in that book, I got to believe that book, that's faith, that he would bless. So he blessed me, and he blessed Pauline. And I could tell you so many things that happened that unbelievable. At the age of 30, I went to college. You know, and I want to say this to show you that God can bless. And I didn't finish high school. I went to work, but at the age of 30, I went to school. In the first year, I made A's in homiletics. There's some things I didn't know that I learned, but I found out how to study. And that was a great asset to me in my ministry. And Pauline worked, got a little job, and she started working, and she tried to work hard, taking care of the kids, and then I would come home on Thursday evening, work for Thursday night on the job. My boss man was good, he let me work Thursday night, Friday, Saturday. And you know, something most people won't believe, I got completely out of debt while I was in college working just a couple of days.
Because of obedience to the Lord.
You see?
Right?
And I ain't gonna never forget that. It was him who did it.
That's exactly right.
It was him who blessed me. And one of the things that helped me, Terica, is that the pastor of, he used to pastor the church off of North Street down there. His name was, I know his name, and if I could think of it, his name was, Mara. And he was teaching a class that had been set up by Southern Baptists in the house on Jenkins Street, and I was attending that class. And he told me one afternoon on Tuesday night, he said, Brother Young said, I want to see you. And I was a young minister. And he said, do you ever think about going to school? I said, man, I can't go to school, man. I got a wife and 2 kids. How come? And he kept me out there, and everybody gone, and we stayed out, I guess, 35 or 40 minutes. And for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, he did that. And he said, well, what do you preach? And this is what got me. What do you preach? I said, I preach Jesus. He said, how can you preach Jesus and don't have no faith?
Wow.
And I was puzzled. I said, what do you mean I don't have no faith? He said, you say you can't go to school? That's faith. Young, James Mara. I says, but you don't understand. No, he said, I understand, but you don't understand. He says, you have potentials and you're too young to limit yourself. So you have to step out on faith. Said, but if you don't, how do you preach to those people on Sunday morning and you ain't got faith to believe that God will provide a way for you to go?
That is awesome, awesome.
And
from that you did.
I went home and my nights become sleepless nights. Spirit was dealing with me. And I'm wondering how I do it. And I told Pauline one night, she said, how you late come from school every night? And I said, well, Dr. Mara talking with me about going to school. And I said, I can't go to no school. She said, you want to go? I said, yes. She said, well, I get a job and help you.
That's a partner. That's a real partner.
And I said, you can't get a job. And she got with Pauline was a good seamstress. She could sew. She went to a Peat Mount shirt factory and put in an application. Well, they will send you to Greenville Tech to take some courses. So she went to Greenville Tech, and to show you what God did, and I'll never forget this. She went to Greenville Tech, and the lady at Greenville Tech, when she had them testing children, doing some, so she called the lady at Peat Mount Shirt Factory and said, well, you got one girl here ready. So she don't need to be here. And Pauline went to Tech one day and then went to job and got the job. That was God.
That was awesome.
That was God.
Yes,
that was God.
So let's talk about your dad. I want to talk about Granddaddy. Tell me a little bit about your dad.
My dad.
What do you remember the most?
Well, I remember that my dad was a dad that loved to read. Now, my dad at his age, and my dad went to school, went to high school. He was just two of them. My aunt, his sister, and my Aunt Maud, and Daddy. Well, Daddy was a farmer, good farmer. Everybody wanted Fred back then. Everybody wanted Daddy to farm for them because Daddy was a good farmer. They called it profit sharing. And I used to follow him all the time, and I learned a lot of things by being with him. And I learned how to carpentry, I learned how to work on cars, and I learned how to plow. And Daddy didn't have money to give us, but he had some knowledge to share with us. I never will forget Daddy said to us boys one time, so nobody don't owe you anything. And during that time, black people, there was a lot of prejudice in life. He told us how to respect people and how to live and what to do and so forth and so on. And says, now nobody don't owe you nothing. You got to get out there and get it. It's out there if you want it.
Right.
And I never will forget that. So then I started, and then after that, at the age of 16, I was going to school during summer month. I got a job doing construction. I learned how to pour concrete at the age of 16. But I wasn't really completely dumb-ified, because I learned to drive when I was 9 years old. And
so do you think him saying what he said to you at that time
it helped me.
The biggest
yes,
part?
what he said to me has stuck with me all of these years. And I still remember my daddy, and I can remember him talking to us. And Daddy would call me most of the time, Johnny boy. Yeah, go get the tractor. And my mother called me her little man. And I used to ride the bicycle. I know it was 3 miles, 3 miles and a half, and we had to go to the rural store in the country. And I had an old bicycle my cousin gave me. And I ride that bicycle all the way up, and I just think about it, and come back with whatever she had, yeah. And so these are the days, I remember all of those things, to go over there and get this, and get that, and get this. And, we were taught not to steal. There's anything that ain't worth asking for, ain't worth taking. And so, I learned from him that, to be obedient, respect people. And if you really want something, and people discover that you want something, they'll do all they can to help you.
That's exactly right.
Now, they'll do all they can to help you. But if you act like you don't want anything, they ain't gonna waste no time with you, you see. And Daddy used to tell us always, don't hang around folks that don't want nothing. If they don't want anything, you don't need to be with them.
That's right.
That's right. And so what they're gonna do, get you in some trouble. So then this is what you do. You save something, and my daddy would always take a little head. He never would have a whole pencil, just a little sharp pencil he stuck in his pocket, and he could sit down. Now, if you save this, if you was to save 10 cents a week, $1 a week, and look what you have, and you just saved $1 a week, and there's 52 weeks in a year, you have $52. But don't put up $1 and go get it every time you put it up.
Right.
Yeah. So you put it up and you get used to doing it, and it'll happen. So I found out this is true. You know.
So let me ask you this. If you had to share some knowledge with a young dad, what would you tell that young man?
I would tell that young man, first of all, to be honest with your wife, respect her, and let her respect you. Don't let her love you any more than you love her. If she loves you 100%,
You say that all the time.
yeah, if she loves you 100%, you love her 100%. And y'all work together as a team. Because that good book says when you marry, you become one.
That's right.
So what happened is, and I'm going to tell you something, Terica, what has happened, I have gone to work, come home, and stop by the store with a loaf and get a loaf of bread. And Pauline, when I get home, she said, I meant to tell you to get a loaf of bread, and I'm glad you got it. See, our minds, even at a distance, we can understand the needs of each other. And what you happen is, keep outsiders out your business. And if y'all have an argument, don't go to your job and tell somebody y'all had an argument. So sometimes sometimes our biggest argument will be after we done got through arguing, then it was our cause. No, I started. No, I started. No, I. You see? No, you were right. I started. No, I wasn't. It was both of us, and then we together again. Yeah. So we done this and so forth, and the only time that Pauline and I have been apart from each other when I was going to the conventions, when she had the kids, or when she was in the hospital. And since then, all of our times has been at home. And one thing about I said to young people, you got to trust each other. You got to trust her, and she got to trust you. Yeah. And if you do it, don't be wasteful. What you can't afford, leave it alone now. Do right, and the Lord is going to bless you. And what I tell people, God never promised to give us our wants. And sometimes, but he said needs. He will supply our needs.
That's right.
And that's what we look for. Because everything we want ain't for us. But if you can keep doing this and keep doing it, God will say, okay, give it to him. Then you get messed up.
That's right.
Now, I can tell you about this. Going in a car lot, looking at a car, you love it, and you love that thing so much you forget about what you making and the other bills that you have, and you grab this, you try to get it, and then next thing you know, whatever you going to do, remember, the end of a month is coming, and payday is gonna be. And if you ain't got it, sometime one day from work will set you back the whole year.
Yeah, that's right.
But-
So when we were talking a little earlier about your church family, your members, because you've had some of your church family with you quite some time.
Yeah.
And they become a part of your family.
Their family.
They become a part of you and who you are.
Yeah.
How has that changed you? Because, as a young minister, a young pastor, it probably took time to kind of mesh the relationship because you're dealing with people from different walks of life.
Yeah. Well, what happened is that's something you have to deal with. We study the Bible in order to study people, the habits, the character of people. And if you stay close enough to God, God is going to show you people that ain't what they ought to be and not doing what they ought to do. And a lot of people don't understand that, but I have learned over the years in my church that all of my older members are gone. I'm the oldest one in that church, other than the ladies. I got some ladies in there that's older, in their 90s. But I got a bunch of young people, and they are different today than they were 15 or 20 years ago.
So you as a pastor, you've got to know each of them to be able to father them, or however the Lord shares with you about them, their situation or their need. You have to, just like a dad does,
You have to like a dad.
figure out how do I get to my child? How do I help my child? How do I encourage them?
You encourage them by first showing love.
Awesome.
And let them see, and they ought to be able to pick up something from how you have treated other people. And some people will wonder. Some people, I've had people in my church say, well, how do you do this? Why? Well, you ought not to do, you need to do it, but you ain't me. You're not me. And so the point of it is, you can't tell me what I ought to do when I already done been told how to do it, you see. And this is one of the things that we have. This is what's wrong with the churches today, is people got to learn how to follow leadership. And I said, Terry,
good leadership.
Yeah, well, now everybody, now I tell them now, that's the reason why it's important and imperative for them to study the Word. So you have to teach them the Word, And when you study the Word, if the Bible tells you how to live, then you can, but see, listen, you can't just jump up and tell people, this ain't right and that ain't right. Just listen to them, let them listen. And I learned when I took psychology and religion, that you don't go in and have all the answers, but you got to be smart enough to let folk tell you what's wrong and what's going on in their life. Listen to them. Listen to them. Even when people are wrong sometimes, listen to them. When your time comes to talk, then you can let them know, well, you can believe this, you can believe that. Like I tell my people, now listen, I've learned something, and I said, you all got to learn something. Everybody that darkened those doors on Sunday morning don't know Jesus. Everybody don't know him. And I have learned not to condemn people through ignorancy, because they can't help. If they don't know him, there's something. Now, and when you mention the word ignorancy to church people, it don't mean that they are illiterate. And you got to let them know that. You just don't have no knowledge of what this means or what that means. Right. You see? And when you don't have a knowledge of something, you're ignorant of it until you learn. Now there's a lot of people got PhDs, but they don't have salvation. And what happened is we start trying to believe, this is how you tell young people, you got to have faith in God. Now that's what I was doing when you come. We're talking about faith, justification, salvation. Salvation is through Christ. And you got to have faith, and you got to repent of your sin. And when you say you give the Lord your life, that means you got to be obedient to Scripture.
That's exactly right.
You got to be obedient to Scripture.
Exactly right. So we are going to wrap up our session for today. But I want to give you an opportunity to just give a few minutes of your final words about fatherhood on any level that you see fit, and we will conclude for today.
Well, I just want to say that fatherhood is so helpful if you know what a father is. Everybody that fathers a child ain't a good father. He has to sacrifice, and you ought to have something within you that child sees and respects, and it's got to start here. You can't wait till he get 14 or 15 and let him miss all the things here. It's just like going to school and you promote a child, he's in first grade. If he don't learn what first grade is about, how he gonna do second grade? You move up, you keep moving up. And if and I'm gonna tell you, if he missed third grade, fourth grade gonna be a problem.
Right.
You see? So in these moving forward, learn him how to study. And then what happened to me is the fact that I learned that my dad and them didn't have much, but we never went hungry. He always had a way. Daddy raised hogs, and he always had something. And then Daddy had good credit. He could go up to that country store and get things. Yeah. And Daddy used to say, honesty, keeping your word is like having money in the bank.
That's right. That's right.
Because when people get to the point that they can trust you, you can ask and you can get some things. And when you do get it, if you ain't got money to pay, when you're supposed to pay, be a man and go in and let those people know. But you have to be a father. I mean, be a father. Spend some time with your child. Play with him. And there's some things that he does, that you do with him, he'll never forget it.
That's right.
But show love.
Okay.
You show love. You don't want to whip him, but if you have to sometime, let him know that who's in charge. You have to do that. So I just want to say that to all of the young fathers, be a father. And let your children, if you respect them, they're going to respect you.
All right. And this concludes us. Thank you so much for watching. If you don't mind, we ask that you would like, share, and subscribe. This has been the great Reverend J.E. Young. We hope you enjoyed it and have a great week.